العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدمه. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
خلاص الشروط صح؟ نبدأ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. شروط المبحث الرابع, the fourth topic is شروط الإرث, conditions for a person to inherit. Previously we studied what? Pillars. And pillars and conditions are different, as you all know. طيب, الشرط الأول, the very first shart, the very first condition for us to even make sure someone inherits another is تحقق موت المورث. تحقق, we have to establish the death of the person that is being inherited. So مثلا we can't say والله الله أعلم, he was on life support machine, but I don't know if he's passed away or not, لكن let's just distribute the inheritance anyway. We can't do that. We have to establish and we have to have full knowledge of him or that person passing away. That is the first condition. The second condition is تحقق حياة الوارث بعد موت المورث. We have to make sure that the person that is inheriting, مثلا his father, that is alive when the father passes away. We have to make sure that the one inheriting is alive when the one being inherited passes away or is dead. So مثلا Yusuf passed away at 6 p.m. At 6 p.m. we need to make sure that his son is alive. Let's say Yusuf has one son, no one else. Yusuf passes away at 6 o'clock. We've established that he's passed away. We're certain. Like in the second condition is that we have to make sure that Yusuf's child, his son, is alive at 6 o'clock. And that obviously makes a difference. If Yusuf passed away at 3 p.m., طيب, and his father passes away at 6 p.m., the inheritance is going to be totally different now. The inheritance is going to be totally different. Like, and if we make sure that the child's alive at 6 o'clock when the father passed away, then that is the condition. الثالث العلم بالمقتضي للإرث. We have to know why X is inheriting Z or Y. We have to know the connection between the deceased and the one that we're saying is going to inherit him. Is it his son? Is it his uncle? Is it a wife? Is it a husband? The connection between the deceased and the one that we're trying to give the inheritance to. We have to establish that. How many conditions? 3. Some scholars see the things that prevent a person from inheriting another. So what are the conditions? We have to make sure that the one being inherited is passed away. He has passed away. The second, we have to make sure that the one inheriting is alive before or at the time of the other person being deceased. طيب. The third, we have to establish the connection between the two. Can't just say that's his neighbor or that was his really good friend of his, so he inherits him. La. And the fourth is what? You have to make sure that there's nothing, there's not a mani' preventing inheritance. Is that understood? The conditions you're all aware of. The asbab, and this is very important, this plays a big role in understanding who inherits and why they inherit and how much they're entitled to. Asbab al-irth literally means the reason for inheriting. Someone passes away, why are you inheriting him? What's your connection between the person that's deceased and you? You need to know the connection between the deceased and the one that you want to give the inheritance to. Is that understood? So the asbab is probably one of the most important things in these notes. طيب. The very first and the strongest reason for one to inherit another is a nasab, blood ties, family ties. That is the strongest reason for a person. But actually, isn't this? Can you hear me? It's not working. Huh?
Is it not switched on?
It is. Like, if I don't use it, can they hear?
Carry on for now.
Fine. A sabab, and this is the strongest reason. Why? Because nikah, as we shall see, and before a person gets married, he's not related to this person. Like, there's not a single time where you wasn't related to the person that you're inheriting. Mathalan, your father, there wasn't a moment in your life where you wasn't related to him, where there wasn't a connection. Your brother, your sister, there wasn't a moment in time where you wasn't related to them. Is that understood? Right? And it is al-ittisalu bayna insanayn. It is a connection between two people. A connection between two people. Leave it out, yeah? It is a connection, al-ittisalu bayna insanayn. It is a connection between two people, human beings. So therefore we understand that you can't inherit, you can't leave your inheritance to a cat. So it is a connection between two humans. بِوِلَادَةٍ قَرِيبَةٍ أَوْ بَعِيدَةٍ. By way of birth. By way of birth. Whether that connection is close or distant. Okay. For example, مثلا, your father. قريب صح? The ab. The father. And he's close by. Your brother. Al-akh. And he's close by, literally the child of your parents. So that is qarib. Ba'ida could be am, it could be an uncle. Or ibn am, it could be the son of an uncle. He still inherits you. Family ties, is that understood? Family ties are of three types. Okay? Family types are of three types. So let's say this is the person that is diseased. Let's say he's passed away. صح? طيب. We have something called al-usul. Al-usul. And the asl of a person, the origin of a person. And we have al-furu'. And this is the offspring, going down, offspring. And this is the usul. Who comes under usul? Al-ab, the father. Al-jad, the what? The grandfather. Al-um, the mother. The mother. Al-jadda, al-jadda, the grandmother. طيب. When you go home, do a jadwal. مثلا you have Ali. Ali has mom, dad. So far. طيب. Al-furu', your offspring, your children, whether they're your daughters, your sons, or the children of your sons. Your sons and your daughters. Is that understood? Your daughters and your sons equally. Or the children of your sons. So, مثلا, Ali has got a child called, give me a name. Ahmed. Ahmed. طيب, he's got Ahmed. Ahmed is his son, صح? So that is a far'. Give me another name, a girl's name. لا, Khadija, give me another name. Now give me another name. That's my daughter's name, so I can't give you my daughter's names. Give me two different names. Didn't I tell you, Ammi Tajara, don't kill me or kill my neighbor off? Asiya. طيب, Asiya. The offspring or the furu' of Ali are who? Ahmed and who? Asiya. طيب. Ahmed has a child called who? Musa. Musa is included in the inheritance. He is considered an offspring of a male descendant. Is that understood? Give me a child for Asiya. Zayd. Zayd is not included in the inheritance. Why? Because the bloodline goes through males. Is that understood? the bloodline for inheritance. This doesn't mean they're not family, la. It's just when it comes to inheritance, the furu' always get further and further by way of the male children. طيب. So we have furu' here. Do you understand what furu' is? Who comes under furu'? Huh? Al-awlad, the daughter and the son. And who else? Awladul ibn, the children of the son, not the children of the daughters. And if you know tribes, if you have tribes, the way the tribes operate, that is exactly how inheritance operates. طيب. Then there's something called al-hawashi. Al-hawashi. Al-hawashi are the things that are on the side of a person. So we've already studied the usul. What are the usul? The origin of a person? Ab, jad, father, grandfather, grandmother, and so on. However high you go up. طيب. And the furu' are what? The awlad, and however you go. طيب. The hawashi are the things that are on the side of the person. What comes under this? Al-akh, the brother. Al-ukht, the sister. Al-am, the uncle. And so on. Awladul am, the children of your uncle, and so on and so forth. Is that understood? طيب. So with regards to nasab, which is the first what? The first sabab, the first reason. Why is it the first reason? It is the strongest. It is the strongest and the closest. And it is what? Al-ittisalu bayna insanayn is a connection between two people by way of birth. Whether it's a close birth or by distance. And that nasab consists of three. What are these three? Usul, your father and your mother, their parents. Or furu', your children from your daughter's side and from your son's side or your daughter's side. Or your daughters and your sons. And anything that comes down or descends from your son. Is that understood? And the hawashi, what comes under that? Brothers, sisters, khal, and so on. But we shall see how they inherit. طيب. Is that understood? طيب. طيب. Nikah is the next aqd. Nikah. And it is aqd, a contract. Aqd zawjiyah. As-sahih, I forgot to write. As-sahih, that is correct. Aqd zawjiyah is sahih. Aqd zawjiyah, a contract of zawaj, nikah. طيب. That is sahih. What does that rule out? The nikah that is fasid or batil. The nikah that is incorrect and that is fasid. For example, without a wali or مثلا a person marrying a relative of his, والعياذ بالله. طيب. وإن لم يحصل وطء أو خلوة. Even if what? Even if there is no what? If there is no intimacy, intercourse, or khalwa, or if there is no seclusion, they're not together alone. Why does the definition include these two? Because if there's no what and there's no khalwa, there's no mahr. If there's no khalwa, there's no mahr. Mahr is not wajib. Lakin, when we're talking about inheritance, it is included. So it is a aqd, a nikah contract, even if there's no intimacy that takes place or there's no khalwa, seclusion where they're together. Mathalan, for example, a person can get married to, mathalan, a brother can get married to a sister in another country. طيب? The aqd is done. The aqd gets done at 12 p.m. So the aqd was 6 hours ago. She's now his wife and he's her husband. Then he dies at 6 p.m. Does she inherit him? Why? Naam, she inherits him because there's aqd. No one's going to say, la, but he's never been there, he's never seen her, so la. If the aqd takes place, there's inheritance. Al-wala is patronage or something like that. It is if a person frees a slave. If a person frees a slave, and then when that slave passes away, they don't have anyone to inherit them. Their inheritance goes to the mu'tiq, the one that freed them. Is that understood? You've got a slave, his name is Ali. You free Ali today. You free Ali today. Ali passes away 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later. He leaves behind no descendants, no usul, no furu', no one to inherit him, not a wife, nothing. His wealth comes back to you. Is that understood? طيب. So the most important two are number 1 and 2, nasab and nikah. Is that understood? Nasab and nikah. They're the two most important ones. Lakin wala is also there. What are the reasons for inheriting a person inheriting another? Sisters. What are the reasons for a person to inherit another? A nasab. And what is a nasab? A birth relation. And who comes under the birth relation? Nasab. Let's try using the terminologies. Let's try getting used to the terminologies of the Faradiyin or in Fara'id. Usul, Furu' and Hawashi. Usul, Furu' and Hawashi to the side. And nikah, ikhwani. What is nikah? It is aqd zawjiyya and it is sahih. طيب. وإن لم يحصل وطء أو خلوة. طيب. الولاء, you've understood. طيب. المبحث السادس, the 6th point is موانع الإرث. موانع الإرث. Things that prevent a person from inheriting another. طيب. Things that prevent a person inheriting another. So, we've understood that yes, the conditions and the pillars and the reason. Now that we've established the connection, there's also mawani', there's things that can prevent a person from inheriting. The very first is al-qatl. Al-qatlu al-amd. Al-qatlu al-amd. A person intentionally killing a person. And that is izhaqu ruhi mubasharatan aw tasabbuban. Whether it's killing a person directly or killing a person via someone else or via something else. طيب. So if a person kills, wal-'iyadu billah, the person that he is meant to inherit intentionally, then they don't inherit them. Or if the person is a reason for the one they're meant to inherit to die, reason for them dying, then they don't inherit. For example, a husband dislikes his wife and he kills her. He doesn't inherit her. It doesn't mean that he's killing her to take her inheritance. Is that understood? Like, even if he's killing her for whatever other reason. Obviously, if he's killing her so he can inherit her, he doesn't inherit her. But if he's killing her for any other reason, likewise he doesn't what? Likewise, he doesn't inherit her. Also, a father or a child killing off his father or the one that he was meant to inherit, or the father killing off the child that he was meant to inherit, they do not inherit them because of the killing that they have done. Even if they hire out someone to kill them, or they intentionally run them over, regardless. If their reason for their death, then they don't inherit them. There's a qa'idah that we studied in al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya that we can apply here. Who remembers? Hold on, put your hand up if you remember. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sisters. Go on. Yeah. Is that what you're going to say? Yeah. But you didn't even hear it. What? Huh? What was you going to say? Abdullah? Are you sure? طيب. من استعجل شيئا قبل أوانه عوقب بحرمانه. Whomsoever rushes a thing that they were entitled to, then they are punished by being deprived of that thing. طيب. And due to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, القاتل لا يرث, the killer, the one that kills, does not inherit. The killer does not inherit. Like if a person accidentally kills the one that he is due to inherit, then obviously in that case they inherit them. For example, they accidentally run them over. It's pitch black, he's getting out the parking lot, and then all of a sudden he runs over a family member, wal-'iyadu billah. He inherits him. طيب. Or مثلا, if the father is a doctor and he is working in the surgery room and his son is the person that is in the surgery room, and then his son قدر الله ما شاء فعل, he passes away after the surgery. He inherits him because it is not intentional. Is that understood? What is the first reason? Al-qatl. Al-amd. If a person intentionally kills another. طيب. The second is اختلاف الدين. اختلاف الدين. If the religion is different. مثلا one is Muslim, master. Belongs to his master. طيب. Why? Because the master, the slave doesn't inherit, doesn't have any man. طيب. With regards to nikah, there's a masala. What about if there's talaq? We said that the reason is nikah, صح? Careful. Go on. If there's nikah and there's talaq, what should we do? Okay, so if he intentionally divorces her, so she doesn't inherit. Gone. If he divorces her when the iddah period hasn't finished, okay, what? He doesn't inherit. She does inherit if the iddah period, yeah. If the talaq is in her haid, the talaq takes place, like it is a bid'i talaq, it is khata. Talaq is of three types. مثلا there's talaq raj'i, we shall see in kitab talaq, kitab nikah. Talaq raj'i, مثلا a man divorces his wife for the first time. She's got iddah period, a waiting period. If she dies in that waiting period, she's still his wife, so she inherits. He inherits her, and if he dies, she inherits him. Is that understood? Like if a person is in maradul maut, maradul makhuf, and he's about to die, or he's got a few months left to die, and he divorces her intentionally so that she doesn't inherit him, then she inherits him. Even if she's finished with her iddah, even if it's 4 months, 5 months later, she still inherits. طيب. And there's a qa'idah that applies to that. عُومِلَ بِنَقِيدِ قَصْدِهِ. He was being rewarded with his evil intention. طيب. المبحث السابع. The seventh point. The seventh point. I think you've got to move it. The seventh mas'ala that we're going to study now is of two types. Okay? Al-mirath, or inheritance, is of two types. Okay? أقسام الإرث. So مثلا now we know, we've established that a son inherits what? His son inherits his father, صح? طيب. And a wife inherits what? Her husband. A wife inherits her son, a wife inherits her husband, and the son inherits his father. Like there's two types. بالفقد and بالتعصيب. Inheritance is of two types when we're talking about how to inherit. How a person inherits his wife or husband or his father or uncle or cousin or sister or wherever. Two types. The first is بالفرض. بالفرض means there has been a set amount, set number, for example, or amount. And that is called al-fard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a rubu' in the Quran, a thumun, a nisf, sudus. For example, the zawj. The husband has been mentioned in the Quran, sah? What I'd advise you to do is memorize the verses in Surah An-Nisa, 12, 13 and 165, the very last one. If you memorize these three, you know exactly who inherits. Other than that, it's one or two more hadith the jad, the grandmother, and so on. Like these are the main verses for who inherits and what they inherit. So the zawj, for example, in the Quran, at times he inherits half. Is that not a set amount? Well, that is a set amount. Mathalan, the the mother, in certain circumstances she inherits a third. Is that not a set amount? That is a set amount. Mathalan, the jadda, the grandmother, she inherits a sixth certain times. The bint, the daughter, at times she inherits half. Is that understood? These individuals, and we're going to see in the next chapter who inherits. Like in these individuals, when you look into the Quran and the Sunnah, they are given a specific amount. That is al-irth bil-fard. Bil-fard. They've been given a specific amount. Is that understood? Then there's something called ta'asib. Then there's something called ta'asib. Ta'asib, there's no set amount. There's no set amount. They take the rest, the remaining, whatever is left. So for example, Ibn. In the Quran, if you try looking in all of the verses and in the Sunnah, you won't find a certain amount being allocated to the son. You will find what? لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. For the male is 2 portions of the female. Is that understood? Or the uncle. Ain and mim. That is ain. No. The uncle. The uncle does not have a set amount in the Quran or in the Sunnah. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Alhiqul fara'id bi ahliha, wa ma abqat al-furud fali awla dhakarin rajulin, or fali awla rajulin dhakarin, or bihadha al-lafz." The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Alhiqul fara'id bi ahliha." Give the inheritance to those that are deserving of it, or those that have been given a certain amount. The fara'id. Then after that, give it to the very closest or the closest amount or the closest male member of the family. Is that understood? So for example, let's say, just as an example, okay, let's say a woman passes away and she leaves behind a husband and a brother. Let's say she leaves behind the husband and a brother. We're going to say what? Like leave a brother out as well. She leaves behind the husband and a mother and an This is how it's going to work out. I don't expect you to know this at the moment. I just want you to know that there's a certain amount. The zawj, her husband, gets half of whatever she leaves behind. Okay? The she gets a third. Let's say just these two. She gets a third of whatever is what? Left. A third of whatever is left. Is that understood? A third of whatever wealth there is, not what is left. A third of whatever there is. Is that understood? But can you see here? We've given them a figure. صح? طيب. What if a person leaves behind, مثلا, a son, مثلا. Let's say he leaves behind a wife and a mother and a son. For the son, we're going to write ibn here. Okay? But here, where we're meant to write what they deserve to get, we're going to put ba. What does this ba stand for? Al-baqi, whatever is remaining, whatever is left. So after he takes his share, the husband, and after the mother takes her share, whatever is left, the son takes. That is called a ta'asib. Okay? Let's say here, take the ibn out. Put in the woman that died, she left behind a zawj, husband, and and a mother. Okay? He takes what he needs to take, and the mother takes whatever she needs to take. Then she's also left behind an uncle, her father's brother. The we're not going to say we're going to give the half, or we're going to give the a sixth. we're going to give the am a fourth. La, we're not going to say that. We're just going to say baqi, ba. Whatever is left down to the uncle. So there's inheritance, and these have been mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah, a set amount. Then there's ta'seeb, and there hasn't been a set amount mentioned for these, like they take whatever is left. Whatever is left. In most cases, the ta'seeb, those that take with ta'seeb are male relatives. In most cases, the ones that take by ta'seeb are male relatives. Right. Is that understood? Any questions on that? Don't worry too much about Zawj and him getting this and him getting that, her getting. Don't worry about that. That's not what I'm trying to get across to you now. I just want you to know that at times people take wealth with fard because they've got a certain amount allocated to them. And at times there hasn't been a certain amount allocated to them. They take whatever is remaining. Is that understood? Right. Questions in a minute, okay? The last mas'ala is pretty straightforward. It is al-warithuna min al-rijali wa nisa. Those who inherit. Those who inherit. Okay? So those who inherit a person are either family members by way of cousins and brothers and sisters, mother, father, or a husband or a wife. Okay? So if a man passes away, then his wife or his wives inherit him. If he passes away, again, his wife or his wives inherit him. Obviously, we can't say husbands inherit her, because no such thing as husbands. Like in wives, they inherit him. So there's warithuna min al-rijal. There's those who inherit from the men. And write these down, inshallah. Write these down. And they're written anyway on this. So al-warithuna min al-rijal. From the men, put al-ibn, the son. The son. وَإِن نَزَلَ بِمَحْدِ الذُّكُورِ. Even if it is, and what comes under ibn or what comes under son is any male descendant that comes by way of another male descendant. For example, men. So we have Ali here. Ali is the one that's passed away. The very first is what? Ibn. Ibn, his son. Or Ibn, the son of his son. Or Ibn, the son of his son of his son. His male grandson by way of his son. Is that understood? Bint, pay attention. Ibn. Shuf. This is Ali's son. Ali's son gives birth to his son. He gives birth to his son. This line inherit. Is that understood? Ali also has a daughter called Asma. Is that understood? طيب. Asma has a son. He has given birth to a son, and he has given birth to a son. Like none of these inherit. Why don't they inherit? Because they're not from the male descendant of the deceased. Is that understood? So Ibn. And Ibn. So that is 1, 2. Afwan. The deceased doesn't inherit him. 1, 2. There's the Ibn and the Ibn. The son of a son. They inherit. However far down you go. Then you have al-ab, the father. Is that understood? The father. Number 3. Or the jad. That is number 4. So the 4th person that inherits is the grandfather. And then you keep going up. The male bloodline. The male bloodline. So the father and the father and the father and the father and the father, they all inherit. Obviously you won't go that far up because they die. Lakin, if they are there, then they inherit. How many people have we got so far that inherit? Read it out. Who's got the... How many have we got so far? Ibn wa in nazal, al-ab wa in ala. The father, that's 4. Then we've got al-ikhwa al-ashiqa. Your brothers are of 3 types. Al-shaqiq, your full brother, the son of your mother and your father. He is called al-akh al-shaqiq. Is that understood? Al-akh al-shaqiq is your full brother. So he's let's call him number what? 5. Al-akh li'ab. He's number 6. He is your brother but your father's side. Your brother but from your father's side. So for example, your father has 2 wives. You're the son of one wife and Muhammad is the son of the other wife. She's not your mother directly, lakin he is your brother. Why? Because he's the son of your father. Then there's al-akh li-um. That's number 7. He is the akh li-um is your brother through your mother's side. So your mother, your dad married your mother and he had you. And then he passes away, your father. Your mother gets married again and she has other children, another child with another brother or another child for another man, for your stepfather. She gives birth to him. He is now your what? Your what? Akh li-um. He is your brother from your mother's side. Is that understood? He is your brother from your mother's side. Now, your brother from your mother's side. Is that understood? How many? 7. Then you have what was next? Sah? Am shaqiq. Shin. The shaqiq of your father. Your uncle from the same mother and father as your father. From the same mother and father as your father. Your direct uncle. Your dad's brother. That, by the way, it's all paternal. The only thing that is maternal here is the akh li-um and the mother. Your father's side are the direct inheritors of you. Your mother's side, no, not for now. Towards the end of the book, we're going to get to that, inshallah. Like, for now, it's your male or your father's side that inherit you. Is that understood? The others are called dawil arham. So the am of the shaqiq is what? The 8th person. Have you understood what shaqiq is? Faqad, your dad's brother, your dad's full brother. That's what am shaqiq is. Then you've got am li'ab. That's the 9th one. طيب. Your am li'ab is who? Your dad's half brother from the father's side. Khalas. Am li'ab. طيب. How many is that? 9, huh? His children, his sons, and his sons. His sons and his sons. Is that understood? How many is that? 11 or something like that, sah? 11. Okay. Also, the mu'tiq, the person that frees a slave and then he later on, that's how many? 13, sah? From the men there are 15. طيب, who are we missing out? طيب, على كل, these are the most important people that inherit the person. About 15 in number, lakin some of them are times 2. For example, your akh, your nephew, the nephew of your full brother, the nephew of half brother from your father's side. That takes the toll up to women. طيب. The women, Al-bint. Your bint, your daughter, inherits you. Is that understood? Your daughter inherits you. Bint al-ibn. The daughter of a son. مثلا, Ali passes away. He leaves behind Yusuf. Ali passes away, he leaves behind Yusuf. Like, Yusuf has a daughter called Fulana. Like, Fulana is the son of Yusuf. She's a descendant of a male descendant. So she inherits. That's bint al-ibn, the daughter of a son. Is that understood? Daughter of a son. Number 3, al-um. طبعا, the mother. Al-zawja, the wife. Al-jadda, the grandmother. But the grandmother will only inherit if there's no mother. Is that understood? But the grandmother is also, the grandmother that inherits is the mother of your father or the mother of your mother. The grandmother that inherits is the mother of your father or the mother of your mother. Remember with the father, the grandfather, who is the grandfather that inherits? The direct male descent, male bloodline following it up. صح? Like for the grandmother, it's not like that. Al-ukht. Your sister inherits you. But your sister is of 3 types. The shaqiqa, your full blood sister, from your mother and your father. Or li'ab. Is that understood? Your sister who you share the same father as. Or li'um. Your sister from your mother's side. Your sister from your mother's side. And number 7 is al-mu'tiqa. The mu'tiqa, the woman that frees a slave and then that slave later on dies, like they don't have anyone to inherit them. Who inherits them? The mu'tiqa, the person that freed them. A zawja? La, zawja's here. Zawja. I just changed the order. طيب. Now, that's the end of the introduction for Babul Mirath, okay? Next week, we're going to start on the book, inshallah. And there are 2 ways that the scholars mention, or that the scholars author in their books, the way they tackle inheritance. Sometimes they'll mention, for example, the farad, and they'll say, for example, half. Who inherits half? And then they say this person, the zawj, the sister, the daughter, and so on and so forth. Then they move on to mathalan, rubu', or a fourth. Who are those people that inherit a fourth? The wife and the husband and so on. Then they say a thumun. Who is the one that inherits a thumun or an eighth? The wife. Then they say who inherits mathalan a sixth. Then they say this person, this person, this person, this person. So the first way is that they mention the actual fard, the actual amount, and then whoever comes under that amount. At times they go by mentioning the actual person. For example, they will say al-um. And they'll say the she gets a sixth at times, and at other times she gets a third. Or they will say the zawj, the husband, he's entitled to a half at times, or if there's a child present, then he gets a fourth. So there's 2 different ways. Have you understood these 2 different ways? By mentioning the actual fard, the amount that is mentioned in the Quran or the Sunnah, half, a fourth, an eighth, a sixth, by mentioning the fraction itself and under it, all of the people that inherit. All of the people that inherit by a sixth or inherit by an eighth or half. The second is mentioning the people that inherit. Mathalan, the husband, he always inherits, right? The wife, she always inherits. The son, he always inherits. The grandfather, the father, all of these people, what they're entitled to. Don't worry too much about it. We're going to study it. Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah, he follows this path. he takes this path. Although I personally think this is easier. Like Sheikh Sa'di follows this path. So what I'm going to do, inshallah, I'm going to send you within the next couple of days, I'm going to send you the notes for the next class. If you memorize who inherits and what conditions they inherit with, it will be easy. So for the next probably 3-4 weeks, we're going to study those people that have been given a specific amount in the Quran and the Sunnah, how they inherit, the reason they inherit, in what circumstances they're meant to inherit, and so on and so forth. Any questions for them? Huh? There's a husband and there's a mother.
The son will be blocked by his father.
Where is the father though? La. When the person dies, it's falling off. When we say, for example, when I say a husband, a zawj is present, the ibn is there, and the These are connections that I'm saying, right? A husband, an ibn, a son, a A husband of who? An ibn, a son of who? A daughter, the deceased. Right? So it's a woman that died. The zawja that died, this is her husband, he inherits her. If a woman dies and she leaves behind the son, what is the connection of her son and her? That's his mother. La. That's his mother, na'am. So he's the ibn, he's the son.
If that's his father, the zawj will block his portion, the zawj that's left over. Out of the three people left over, that zawj, he could be the ibn's father.
He could be his father. Let's say he is his father.
That will block his portion.
No way. No, the son never gets blocked. The son, the father, the husband or the wife never get blocked. The father blocks brothers and sisters. The son blocks. Why are we talking about blocking now? Because we haven't reached it. There's a whole chapter called Bab Al-Hajb. And when we get to it, you're going to answer the first few questions related to it. Bab Al-Hajj, who prevents who? Who prevents who? We're going to study that, inshallah. So, mathalan, if we find that a person leaves behind a mother and a grandmother, the grandmother is blocked. The grandmother is blocked by who? By the mother. Any other questions? Mu'tiq. A person frees a slave. Years later, that person dies. The slave that has now become free dies. They don't have anyone that inherits them. This person inherits them, the one that freed them. Any other questions? Example? Yeah.
So from the zawj that takes
the zawj that takes half.
Yeah, that takes half. Is the people underneath them, are they taking from? Is that also from the original amount, or is it from what's left of the original amount?
Whatever is left from the original amount. After taking away any debts, any wasiyah, any the burial rights and all that. After taking that away. طيب. Say that again. 12, 13, 12 I believe, 13 and 165, the last one. It's on the first page of the book. The matan, gone. The funeral costs come out of the person's wealth. Huh? Naam, is somebody rewarded if they pay off the funeral cost? Naam, they're rewarded if they pay off the funeral cost. And then that cost, the cost that is saved goes back to those that inherit. Say it again. The siblings. Milk siblings. The rada' and milk siblings, no, they don't inherit. Milk siblings only come into play when it's talking about traveling, the mahram, not having to wear the hijab and so on. Lakin they don't come into inheritance. If they? Khalas, if they've been ruled as dead, considered dead by a judge, and then they come back before the inheritance has been distributed, did you say? Or after it's been distributed, the khalas. We go back to all of those people that took the wealth and we take it from them. Well, if they spent it, that's a debt on them. For example, right, if a man dies, a man dies, صح? He leaves behind a son, and he leaves behind grandchildren. The son is missing. Khalas, after a year, the qadi says he's in the ruling of being dead. The grandsons, they inherit, sah? Then a year later he comes back, the son. And the wealth has already been distributed. They have to give back all of the wealth and give it to the son. Why? Because if the son is present, none of the grandchildren inherit. He blocks all of them. And if his wife got married, he can ask for her to be divorced and he can get married to her. He can take her back. Sahih, khalas. طيب, we've got so we've got the next lesson, inshallah. Make sure you benefit from the next book. It's a very, very important book written by Imam Ibn Baz rahimahullah, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. Important lessons for every single Muslim. Important lessons for every single Muslim. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa ahkamu billahi tawfiq.